So now what we want to do is we want to have a 3 by 3 grid. So 3 columns of 3. And that's going to be our game. So we begin by copying this div. So we're going to need 9 of those. So I'm going to copy, and I'm going to Control V, Control V. And it's going to, I'm going to rename mold3, var, 5, etc. Okay, so here we are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so let's save and then refresh. And of course, only these 3 are being shown, and the reason why is because, as you might recall, we are only showing the first 3. So we have to implement the showing of the rest. So first of all, go ahead and create these div boxes, the 6 more div boxes, and come back when you're done. Now go to your JavaScript file, and here is where we're showing up those 3. So we have to show up the rest. So I'm going to copy, oops, paste, and mess up a bunch, paste, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then I'm going to refresh. And let's see. Yep, all the boxes are showing up, with one having lots of space. Okay, so go ahead and add this making it visible. Come back when you're ready. Next, we would like to have these in a grid and not one on top of the other. Now, these things, like actually trying to position things nicely in HTML and CSS, is actually quite tricky, and you can spend quite a lot of time. So I'll show you a few tricks, but mostly I spent probably an hour trying to get it done right until I finally figured this out. So the very first thing is there's a little bit of a trick in CSS where very often you put things inside other things. So you put div elements inside other elements. And that really helps you with organizing them. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a div here. And we're going to give it an ID. And we're going to call it, oops, I shouldn't do that. And we're going to show it, I'm going to call it grid, how about mol container. And I'm going to end the div here. /div. Okay, so what that means is all of these divs live inside this div here. And in fact, the way we normally do this is if I highlight everything and I hit the tab button, the tab moves it ahead, and we show that all of these are inside the container div by doing this indentation. You can kind of see it nicely from this perspective. And let's refresh and see how it looks like. So if I refresh, well, nothing is really different. And the reason why is because a div by default doesn't really look like anything. It is a container, but it's empty. So what I normally do is I'll right away give it a style, and a style I give it is border, and I say border is 1 pixel red solid line. And when I do that, then the container will have a border so we can actually see it. So if I save this file and then I refresh, you can see that this div is very large. And if I click start, you can see that all of these elements are inside this very large div. Now the reason I'm doing this will become apparent. And the reason why is because I want to create this grid inside a big grid, because it allows me to say that the elements inside the red box are basically a grid. And the way we do that is by setting the the style of this container. So go ahead and create this div wrapper. And you don't have to put this style, so remove that for now. We're going to do it differently. So just go ahead, do that, come back when you're ready. Okay, so let us go now and put some styling on this. And let's go to the CSS file. Let's go to the very bottom. And we do div pound, which means ID. And it was called mole container. And you know what? I can't remember what I called it. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to go here and paste. Okay. And I'm going to give it a border. Just so that we can see how it is. You don't have to do that. Border, red, solid 1 pixel. 2 pixels is more visible. And let's put this here, and good, we got it to go. So what we can do is we'll put display, and it's a special display called grid. And when you do that, then things inside this container will be displayed in a grid. What kind of a grid? Well, we can give a grid template. Template columns, and I think we can say 100 pixels. 100 pixels like this. And let's just see how that looks like. I'm kind of going from memory here. Okay, so we're missing one element here. What happened? Why are we missing this here? Hold on a second. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Are we not displaying something? We missed 8. We forgot to display 8. So here we go. Refresh. Start. Good. Got a grid. So as you can see, it's putting this in this kind of a grid-like thing. So if I go to CSS, I can say something like grid gap, and I can say 10 pixels, and this will say this, give you a gap between those boxes. So save, refresh, and now this is the boxes are here. But as you can see, it's not very well formatted because there's a lot of space in between here from the height wise. We would like it to be centered and all that kind of stuff. And to actually figure this out is really tedious, and you really have to know HTML and CSS well. So took me a while. I figured this out, and I'm going to show you basically how that's done. We're not going to do it step at a time. I'm just basically going to show you the code. So here's what we have to do. And you'll have to implement it as well. So to make it all nicely centered and perfect, this is what you do. You set display to grid, then you do grid template columns, and you say repeat 3 times 100 pixels. Again, you will not understand this, and frankly, I don't really know this very well because this is not my area of expertise. So don't worry about it. It's kind of the things that you get from Stack Overflow, from the web. People have figured this out, and they provide these examples. So there's also, we have the grid grid template rows, and we want to do the same thing. Okay, I'm going to put gap 110. We want to say justify content center margin margin. So this needs to be like this. Margin 0 auto. And let's see. Not sure if that's going to be even finished. And as you can see here, we got a nicely centered grid. We want to do a bit more cleanup, but we'll do that in a moment. We're going to get some nice spacing here done. But for now, what I need to do is I need you to go to the, you already have this implemented, I believe. And now you need to go into the one.css. I need to copy this the way it is. Okay, come back when you're finished. Once you do that, we also need to adjust the mole boxes. So scroll to where the mole is, this one, and make a couple of changes. If that's all good, height. We actually have height specified a couple of times. It's width and height here, and there's a height there. So what happens is this height parameter will be ignored because you have it twice, and the latest one will be used. This can be removed, but it's not that critical. And we want to get rid of these margins. So everything with a margin, get rid of. Save. Okay, and I believe the line height, we want to make 100. So go ahead and do that. Remove the previous height. Actually, no, I'm going to do like this. So remove these. You know what? Let's go like this. So remove that if you have it. Remove this, 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 and this. And change this to 100. And come back when you're finished. Let's save and refresh. And now it looks like this. I think it looks much better. So now that we have the formatting done, we gotta get everything finished. So right now the mole is showing up only in the top 3 boxes. Clicking works on this, but not on the other boxes. So, well, let's get the clicking done. Well, we have to, we have to register these event handlers. And we have the event handlers for the 3, so we have that for the rest. So document model 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Do we have a 9? Yes, we have a 9. And save that. But if you're looking at this, there's a lot of repeat code, right? I mean, we're doing the same thing over and over again. Maybe there's a better way. Well, let's see. We're getting the element by ID. And the ID is different. But let's look at the HTML again. So we have the ID is different for each of those, but the class is the same. Maybe we can get by class and get them all in one shot. Let's see. Let's go back to JavaScript. Let's see, is there something like get element by class? When you do this, I'm going to erase this. And when I do dot, I get the list of everything that's available for me. So let's type in get element. Oops. Element. Oh, look at that. Get element by class name. Wow, listen to that. What if we did this and the class is mole? Would this work? Let's try it. Let's save. Go back here. Refresh. And well, the clicking is not working at all. So something went wrong. Let's take a look. Let's F12 to open the developer tools. And we've got some kind of a weird error. Get element by class name, add event listener is not a function. So let me click and tell me, let's see what's going on here. So, okay, well, that something is wrong. So let's put a breakpoint here and I'm going to refresh. And let's see. So I do document element by class name. So let me copy this. And let me put this here in the console. And let's run. Now what do I get here? Okay, so that's a little bit different. Actually, I get a list of something like 0, 1, 2, 3. It seems that I get all the mole divs, but it's sort of like a list. So this is a little bit different. So what if we do the get element by ID? So let me copy that. Copy. What does this give us? Okay, so as you can see, this gives us access to just one div. And on that one div, I'm able to set an event listener. But this is not one div. It's like a whole list of divs. It's what we call an array. Sometimes also called a collection. So let me describe what that is. So you know what? Let's do that. Let me go to here. Let me go to HTML. Let me take a screenshot of this. Okay, and I'm going to put it on the whiteboard right here. Okay, so when we do document dot get element by ID, and I say mol1, this gives me access to just this one thing. Okay, so this actually returns this div. Oops. So this will get me that div. But when I do document dot get element by class name, whoops, and I say mol, what this actually gives me, it gives me, maybe let's do a different color so you can actually see this. It gives me this whole list. So not just one div, but all the divs. So div, another div, and a whole bunch of divs. And it's an object that contains all of them. So, oops, this does not want this here. So while this div does have something called inner text, this does not have inner text. It doesn't have that. Why? Well, because it's a group of things. Each of these divs has a property called inner text, but the group doesn't. So the way if you have a group of these items, you basically can say, I would like the first item. So give me the first item, then the second item, then the third item. And then you can set the inner text. So what we could do, I'll show you how that's done. Let me just move things around. So let's go back to JavaScript. So this whole thing gives me a group of divs. And if you can see this here, each of those divs is actually accessible by this number, the 0th. In programming, very often the first item is not first, is 0, okay? So 0th item. One day I'll explain what that means. But as you can see, each of those are divs. Like if I move my mouse, right, it highlights the divs. It even, when I click on it, even shows in HTML which div that is. But I have to get one of those divs. And the way I do that is I specify its location. The first, the second, the third, etc. And I do this by using these brackets, these square brackets. And I say, give me the first div inside. And if I save this, and try to run this code. Let's get rid of the developer tools. I'm hoping that now it's going to work. And yes, it now works. So I could replace this getting by ID. I could go like that. Oops, let me just put this here. I could say the second, and now so first, second, third. Okay, so rather than accessing them by numbers, I can access by class name, but won't really save me much, really. I mean, I'll still have to have all of these lines here. Wouldn't it be nice if we could simply say, for all of these elements in this, for all of the elements in this group, just add an event listener. And in fact, there is a way. But in order to accomplish this, we have to bring in a library. I'll explain what that is in a moment. But in this video, in the comments section, you will see a bit of HTML, a script tag that you can copy and paste into your HTML file. So watch what I'm doing, and you will find this script in the comments. So find the script and add it into the HTML file in the head tag. And copy and paste it here. If for some reason you cannot get it from the comments, you can just type that right in. And let me highlight this so that, again, this is in the HTML file, and this is what you need to add in the head. Okay, and come back when you finished. Okay, so what does that do? Well, just like we bring in our JavaScript file, the Guacamole JavaScript file, into our HTML, we also bring in another JavaScript file. It's basically just a JavaScript file with a bunch of functions. It's a library. Now, what's a library? Library is, well, a place where there are a bunch of books, right? So you can go in here and get all kinds of information. In programming, a library is a set of a lot of functions that other people have built. And you can use these functions to make your job a lot easier. A lot of things you need to do are going to be built in those functions. So let's see what that looks like. Let's go to our HTML and we'll make sure it's saved. We'll come here and refresh. And I'm going to make it full screen, and I'm going to F12 to get to the developer tools. And look at this. Here are the files. If you go to sources, here are the files that are used by this page. First is the HTML file. Then the HTML file loads up our JavaScript. That's the JavaScript that we were working and building. And of course, the CSS file. But now, from a different website, from a whole different server, we brought in this other file, this jQuery 3.7.1 JS. And if you look into it, it's just a lot of rather complicated, but it's just a lot of JavaScript. There's nothing to it. It's a code just like the one that we wrote, except it's been written by a lot of people, really well tested, and it provides us a lot of neat tools, basically. So what does it give us? Let's go back. Let's go to JavaScript. Let's go here. For example, it gives us a special function. You know how we created a function? Let me scroll down. We created this function, start timer to hide mole. And then when we want to use this function, we would execute it with this kind of a syntax. We would put the name of the function and then the open and close bracket and semicolon. Well, jQuery also created a bunch of functions. And in fact, there's one main function called, well, jQuery. Not I, but jQuery. And I'll show you what it can do. For example, jQuery dot mol click Let's make sure this runs to make sure I got that right. And I'll explain what that means. No errors, it worked. Good, I got that right. So what did I do here? What I did was, actually, let me do a different example. Let me just do the example. Let's just go like this. It'll be easier. What I did is jQuery pound mol4 is the same exact thing as this. Okay, it's just a short form. When we call jQuery, this function underneath calls document, get element by ID, and it gives the name of the element. We specify that it's by ID by entering this pound key. Remember how in CSS file, we specify that we want the ID? So we want a div with an ID called start. Well, in jQuery, it's the same thing. If you want to find something by ID, you put a pound sign. So jQuery pound mol4, this will find this element, exactly the same thing as this. And then they created this little function called click that allows you to quickly add an event listener of type click. So this part is the same as this. You see how it's shorter? Because we programmers don't like to type a lot, right? So having to type document.element ID, we just type jQuery. In fact, we don't like typing so much that people have thought about, you know what, why type jQuery? Why not just make some one letter like J or something? In fact, they did a $sign. So this is the same as this. These are the same. And developers try to make everything as short as possible. So these two things are the same. And I'm going to show you actually what happens. I'm going to show you that if we do this, that actually underneath the jQuery library calls this add event listener. Let's go through this. So let me save. Let's come here, make it full screen, and I'm going to F12 to open developer tools. And let's find the code, this code right here. Okay, we already have the breakpoint. So let's refresh. Okay, and here we are. We're about to execute this jQuery. So I'm going to now use this icon. This icon means go inside whatever function is called. So it's actually going to go inside of this function. So click, and look where we are. We are now in the jQuery library. And it's going to do a bunch of things. And it's going to be doing a lot of things actually. But as we go through it and we see what it's doing, at the very end, I have to be very careful here. Don't ignore what I'm doing because I know this is sort of black magic. But as you can see, it's all the things that we've been doing. Look, document, get element by ID, and guess what? Match to is mol4. Let's open our code. What were we doing here? Document, get element by ID, mol4. And this thing here underneath is doing exactly that. Document, get element by ID, mol4. So as you can see, it's doing the exact same thing. And if I step over, now you'll see that the element is pointing to one of the elements to element 4. See, it's pointing even on this side, right? If I take the element and I put it here in console, as you can see, it's basically our div. That's all there is to it. Now, if I go further, okay. click. Now I'm going to step in and see, well, how did jQuery implement this click function? So let's go inside here. Okay, ignore what I'm doing. Look at that. Remove event listener. No, it's not yet. Remove, no, and not this yet. Don't want to miss it. Again, I know what I'm doing is weird. So, oh, I missed it. You know what? I'm going to do this. Add event listener. I'm going to search for this. And no, that's not the one. I bet that's the one right here. Okay, so hold on a second. So here we are again. I refreshed again, and we're again here. And now I'm going to run. And I added a breakpoint inside the jQuery library. And look what we're doing. The element is basically that div, right, that we're looking at. And we're calling what? Add event listener. What were we doing before? We were doing add event listener. So you can see this jQuery library, all it does is to simplify the things that we need to do. Now, anybody can guess what the type, the first thing here? Oops. What is type? Click. What were we passing? Click. Okay, that's all there is to it. This jQuery is nothing but a simpler way of doing the things that we're doing before. So let me close this here. So jQuery has this. Remember how we're talking that this this will give us a list of the divs. We had the whiteboard here, right? We're saying that get element by class gives us a whole collection or group of divs. And now we have to reference each div by the square brackets. So we have to do the 0th element, the second element, etc. And then we have to add this listener. Well, jQuery is so smart, it says basically, if you get an element by class, and there are many of these elements, it knows that when you say put an event listener like click, it will do it for you. It will actually expand and do all of this for you. So if we want to put this click event, all we have to do is say jQuery, find me all items that have a class small, and the way we display, the way we say we want class is we do dot. That means class, and we need to remove the for. Okay, so this will find all of the divs we have here. See, they all have a class small, so we will find all of these divs would be caught or would be selected by this one statement. So we'll get all of them, and if we say dot click mul on click, it will automatically set up an event listener for every one of our divs. So what we can do is we can actually remove all of this and rewrite it as just that. Let's check to see if I got it all right. Let's come back here, restart, start, and guess what? Anywhere I click, the misses are registering 8, 9, 10, 11. So it is working. And I even get hits. Okay, so I'm assuming you've already created this. This should already be there. And if you do this and you come back to here and you refresh and the application still runs, you should be okay. But if something's not going to work, make sure you get this exactly right. And now I want you to change those lines where we we're setting up the click events into this one line here. So maybe what we should do is, I'll leave this here so that you have for comparison, and I'll take a screenshot. And we need to add this line, and you need to remove all of these lines. Maybe you only have these three here, I can't remember now, but get rid of them, okay? So do that and come back when you're ready. Okay. And you know what? Let's be like a real programmer. Let's be as short as possible. So we put a $sign, and the $sign is shift 4. Let me make sure this is still working. Yep, everything seems to be going good. So make sure you get it working, and then I will see you in the next video. In case you have trouble, something is not working, again, open the developer tools with F12 and watch for any errors. If you got the jQuery wrong, then it won't show up here. It won't show up loaded at all. So again, just one little mistake and it won't work. So something to look forward to. Okay, we'll see you next video.